Alrighty, welcome to this lesson. And in this lesson, I am going to be showing you how to weave point twill. And so right now, I'm going to go through this part a little bit fast. I want you to see the beginning of what I'm doing. But this part, I'm just pretty much going to be doing a header in plain weave. I am using the Ashford SampleIt Loom, and it's going to be a little bit different than using the Cricut because it does have the up shaft, neutral, and down shafts, and it has space for two heddles. But I just wanted to let you know, or talk you through how you are able to use an Ashford product, because whether you have the SampleIt, whether you have the knitter's loom, or if you're working with one of the standard rigid heddle looms, you're pretty much going to be doing similar things because they all have most of them come with the double header option. So what you see that I'm doing now, and I'm just weaving tabby, but I'm going to be doing similar things when I get into doing the actual twill. I am using the shed blocks, or the little shed holders, to put the heddles in the up or down position. When I put the heddle in the up position, I put the second heddle into the actual up position. That's the only thing about weaving with double thread. Sometimes it gets tangled. And then I use the shed stick to create that shed. Because you don't have a space for your second heddle, when you're in the up position, you're just going to use a shed stick just to hold the shed open so that you're able to weave. I put it in neutral there. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and um, I'm going to hem stitch the beginning of my weaving, so that I always like to do that before I get too far into my weaving, so that when I am done, that's one less thing I have to worry about doing. And so I'm just going to go ahead and hem stitch. But while this part of the video is running, I just want you to know you're going to, it's going to depend where you put your heddles. The Ashford looms, they are not made for three looms, but as you will see, you can totally use, not three looms, three heddles, but as you'll be able to see, you can totally use three heddles on these looms. It's just a matter of, figuring out where you want them to be to make manipulating them the easiest. I find that putting heddle 1 and 2, which is shafts 1 and 3, closest to me. So shaft 1, like right in front, and shaft 2, where you would normally put the front heddle. So those two heddles are going to be in the front shed block, and I'm going to be using that part. And then heddle 3 and my pickup sticks is going to go behind the shed block, or behind in that second heddle area. Hope that makes sense. All right, I've slowed down the video a little bit just so that you'll be able to see what I'm doing as I am weaving my point twill. I do have a floating salvage, and I don't know if I explained it totally on the other videos. So I'm going to go ahead and do it again just to make sure you understand what is happening. Well, first, let me talk you through the lifts, and then I'm going to I'll talk you through the floating salvage. So pretty much right now, this is shaft 2. I did shaft 1. Now I'm going to do shaft 2. You may or may not need the shed stick because you create a very good shed when you're putting it in the up position, and you can see very clearly where you should go, because with the Ashford looms, you do have the up position to put it in, and you can just put it in there, and you're able to put all three heddles into an up position, which is very nice, because you can see exactly where the threads are. They raise up. It's very clear. Using the shed stick, just make sure that you don't accidentally you don't accidentally skip a thread, or accidentally skip a stitch with your shuttle. You may notice that when I am ready to bead, I do my pick, and then okay, so I'm going to use my shed stick. I'm using it behind the first shuttle because I'm doing the shaft 4. It's because I can see those threads a little bit better. And I am doing something with my floating salvage, and I will explain that in a little bit. But I'm doing shaft 4. I'm using my pickup stick to create a wider shed to pass my shuttle through, just so that I don't have any missed stitches, just so that it's a little bit cleaner as I am weaving. And so what you'll see that I do, I accidentally took the shed 4 out, but that's no big deal. It's really easy to find your shed 4 again because you just put all the heddles in the down position and you're good. I'm going back to weave shaft 1, and I'm going to put my pickup stick in there. And the pickup stick is primarily for that floating salvage, which I'll explain to you in a little bit. But as I'll do my pick, right? I pass my pick through, and then I bring the heddle down, and I adjust it as it's in more of a neutral thing. I don't try to beat it straight from up. I just kind of like do a little bit of an adjustment once it's in neutral. I find it does a little bit better that way. And there I am. I'm raising heddle 3, which is shaft 2, and put my thing down, take that out, neutral, and adjust and beat. The ability to put the heddles in the up position is pretty nice, and that front heddle is just kind of floating there. It's just, hanging out, doing its own thing. And you don't really have to have a third shed block. It's not necessary. I mean, it's if you have one, great. You can totally use it. But I don't find that it would be that super make that big of a difference. So now I'm fixing my mistake where I pulled out I pulled out the fourth the pickup stick, which is holding that fourth shed. So I'm just going to push all the heddles down so I can put that pickup stick back in. Real straightforward, real simple. And I'm back to go again. I'm not going to promise you that I did not do that more than once, because I always have a tendency to want to pull that shed stick out. All right, let me tell you a little bit about the floating salvage. So with your floating salvage, you're either, okay, so let me back up. The floating salvage are the extra threads that you put on either side of your weaving. And these are just there to be able to catch your weft thread as you're doing your picks, right? And so you have these two threads. And think of them as you're weaving think of them, imagine that you don't have the threads between them, that you just have two threads, and you're just going, and they're side by side, and you're going over one and under one. Then when you pass back, you're going to go under it and over it. You're going back and forth. So that's pretty much, you're just going to go back and forth, back and forth. You're either going to go over it or under it, or under it or over it. So on one pick, if you've gone under the thread, then you need to go over it the next time so that you'll be able to catch it. If you go over the thread, then you'll need to go under it the next time to be able to catch it. And so sometimes as I'm going, because I'm right-handed and I'm putting my pickup stick in right to left, sometimes when I'm weaving back left to right, I have to think about it a little bit to remember, okay, I'm coming from left to right. I need to put this pickup stick in. Which way do I need to catch this floating salvage? Do I need to pick it up and then go under the one to the other side, or do I need to put it down and go over the one on the other side? So that's usually what my pause is, just figuring out which way I need to do my thing. Because I'm filming, I'm thinking a little bit more about this than I would if I was just, weaving and not really worried about it, because I want to do it right so that you're able to see exactly what I'm doing. But that's what I'm doing. When you have your floating salvage, you're either going to be going over it, over one on one pass, and then under the other side, or over it, under it on one pass, and over it on the other side. You're just going, the floating salvage allows you to catch the threads that would not necessarily be caught if you didn't have them there. Something else, I did it again. And I need to put it back in there. And I'm trying to make sure that the threads are clear and I'm picking up the right threads. So what I ended up doing when I warp the loom, you notice that I am using 3 heddles of different dents. We talked about that in the last video, in the previous video, and I decided to put the 12 dent closest to me. Um, just to bring the threads together a little bit more. I could have done it the other way. I did do it the other way, but I felt that the set for 12 dent was a little bit better than the set with it set a little bit wider. So if I wanted to do it in the 8 dent, which I did with the Cricut, I might set my threads, put some thicker threads in there as opposed to working with even the double lace weight. And so, you're gonna, as what I want you to get out of this is the mechanics of how to do this, because this isn't something that's taught a lot. What you can take from it is, once you understand the mechanics of this, then you can go forward and you can use, your hand woven book. You can look at different websites that do floor loom weaving. You can get different books that do floor loom weaving, and you can apply the principles to the different patterns and use them as building blocks and springboards to be able to create your own thing, understanding that, okay, if they call for a 12 dent heddle and they call for this thread, then this is probably, this is what I should do. This is what I can do. You may not make the pattern, but you just use the pattern as a guide to help you be able to figure out what yarn you want to use. You don't have to use it. You don't have to stick to it. It's not gospel, it's not an oracle. It's something there for your benefit. And if you decide that it's useful for you to use it as is, then use it as is. But if you decide that it's useful for you to build upon it, then build upon it and use it in a way that works best for you. Another thing I want to point out, hopefully you're getting, I'm going to go through through how I'm doing this, and then I want to give you some more ideas about using this in real life, whether it be for point, twill, or whether you're using this to weave whatever type of pattern that you happen to be doing. Okay, so let me go with all right, so you see I'm meddling with my with my floating salvages again, trying to make sure that I'm passing over just so that I don't accidentally skip any threads. And I do take my pickup stick out to kind of, let the spacing relax before I beat, just because having it wide open like that when you beat, sometimes it makes the threads pucker, especially as you get closer to the heddle. I do have a tendency to weave as close to the heddle as I can. I think we all do, but sometimes it's good to just advance, because you know that as you get closer to the heddle, the angle of the threads are more steep, and it can make, it can mess with the way that the face of your weaving looks. Okay, so here's some things that I think would be helpful. And like I said, this is this revelation that I had, that you can use different heddles of different dents. It came to me as I was trying to make sure that those of you who are, those who did not get all of the heddles, right? Maybe you only got, you only have 3 heddles, period. You may have a mix of the 3 heddles, but you only have 3, and you want to be able to still be able to do things. I'm all about trying to help people to make the most of whatever it is that they have. I'm a big believer in just, figuring it out, making it work. There's yes, you can always find an excuse for why it can't be done, but you can also find a good excuse for how you can get it done. And I'm about, figuring out a way to make something work. And so All right, I advanced my warp and I'm going for a little bit more. You can see a little bit closer, and I've changed my color as well. As you can see on the left hand side, it is some straight draw, and the rest is point twill. All right, back to what I was saying. So, in addition to the usefulness of allowing you to be able to use whatever whatever heddles you have, there is another benefit to using heddles of different densities, especially because of the fact that many times we have more than one thread passing through the slots, and they have to pass beside each other. And sometimes, especially when you're working with thicker threads, that can make it harder to be able to see your shed. Well, here's the beautiful thing. If you're working with if you're working with a thread that, maybe they tell you to set it at 12, but or they have you, using a thicker thread in a heddle, that than would normally be using a heddle. So for example, in inventive weaving on little looms, I think they have a worsted weight thread set in a 12 dent heddle, right? That was for the example, the sampler that's done, because you're setting it about 20% um, denser than than what is called for. So it's either a worsted weight and a 10 dent or worsted weight and a 12 dent. I want to say it's a 12 dent. I could be wrong. You can go find it in the Inventive Weaving on Little Looms book. So even though I don't use the way that she teaches, Sign Mitchell teaches, to manipulate the heddles, I do find that it's a useful book nonetheless, for some of the ideas and the patterns. So she has the thread set at 20% denser, and then what you would normally do. I really want to say that it is worsted weight set in a 12 dent heddle, but it could be 10, because that would 10 it would make more sense, but I could be wrong. Go look it up. But the bottom line is that when you've got a thread that is set in a heddle, that is, if you have a thick thread set in a finer dent heddle, it's already going to have some friction when you're trying to weave with single threads. When you add in thicker threads that are doubled in your slot, it's going to be even more challenging to be able to get your shed. Well, here's the beauty of weaving with multiple heddles, right? So if you're weaving with multiple heddles, you have the heddle that is set for the dent, or for the you have it set, you have the heddle that will give you the desired density in the way that the threads are side by side, right? I'm struggling with words right now, but I think you can follow me. If you can't, ask me a question under in the comment section of this lesson. But if you do that, you get what you're getting. The front heddle controls the width of the cloth. The front heddle controls the set of the cloth. But the back two heddles are just for manipulation. The back two heddles and the pickup stick, they're just for the manipulation. So think about it like this. You have this 12 dent, I have a 12 dent in the front, I have a 10 dent in the back, and the 8 dent. There is more room for the threads to move around in the heddle than, because of the fact that, I don't know where I went, but anyway, because of the fact that they're spaced wider apart. You can see it in the frame though, so you can see what I'm talking about. Then it would be if you were to use 312 dent heddles, because the 312 dent heddles, they're all set super close. So not only are you using a heddle that is denser than required for the thread that you're using, but you've got that set like that in all the heddles, which means that they're going to be you're going to be fighting with your you're going to be fighting with your sheds throughout the project, which is not going to be very enjoyable to weave. However, if you have it set with the front heddle being the finer dent and the other two heddles being wider dents, or a wider spacing, then you're going to have more of a pleasurable experience weaving, because the threads have space to move between each other. It's the reason why I recommended the 8 dent Heddle, 3 8 dent Heddles just across the board, just to make it simpler for you to be able to move the thread. It's just like when I first started teaching about double weave, and I did the video about double weave, and I said you need to use lace weight in the heddle that normally comes with your loom, which is an 8 dent heddle, because if you use lace weight in an 8 dent heddle when you're doing your first double weave projects, you will see the shed. It will make sense when you put the pickup sticks in. It will be, you can drive a Mack truck through it. When I first started, I followed the directions in the book, and I used worsted weight in my 8 dent heddle, and I cried real tears and got angry because I wasted yarn, which will make anyone cry real tears and get angry, because who wants to waste yarn? Even if it is just plain cotton yarn, it's still painful to waste yarn, because I did everything, and when I was trying to see the shed, it was sticky, and the things weren't moving, and I, being a new weaver, new to double weave, I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do, and it didn't make any sense in the videos. So when I finally switched from trying to use the standard yarn to, as I was being told, and use the yarn that to use a thinner yarn, you could see the shed. You could drive a Mack truck through it. This is why I told you to get, the 3 8 dent Heddles, because that will make it easier for you to be able to see what you're doing. However, if you don't have that, then I would suggest to use what you have. Put the heddle of the greatest density, so that would be the 12 dent. If you have 2 10s and a 12, or 2 8s and a 10, or whatever, put the 10 or the 12 in the front. That's the one that's going to be closest to you, and put the heddles progressively greater toward the back, and you will have an easier experience as you're weaving. So anyway, that is it for this video. Hopefully, it's pretty clear what you're doing. I was just doing a progressive 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. If I were to have done a 1 2 3 4 4 3 2 1 1 2 3 4 3 2 1 2 3 4 3 2 1, I would have gotten diamonds as opposed to peaks and valleys. But these are things that you can try and play with as you do more weaving. But weaving point twill, it's really simple, really straightforward, and I cannot wait to see the things that you make. All right, I'll see you in the next video.